Hello, friends, and welcome to episode 939 of the Juicebox Podcast. Brittany is an adult living with type 1 diabetes who was 6 months pregnant when we made this recording. My note at the end tells me this episode is very funny, and that's what I'm going to tell you about it. Brittany's cool, she's a special education teacher, and she's funny. She recorded this in her car, I think. Oh, actually, she definitely did. She recorded this episode in her car on her lunch break. I hope you enjoy it. While you're listening today, please remember that nothing you hear on the Juicebox Podcast should be considered advice, medical or otherwise. Always consult a physician before making any changes to your healthcare plan or becoming bold with insulin. Let's see, 10% off your first month of therapy at betterhelp.com/juicebox, 35% off your entire order at cozyearth.com with the offer code JUICEBOX at checkout, and a free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free travel packs is what you'll get with your first order at athleticgreens.com/juicebox. Today's podcast is sponsored by me, and I choose to tell you about the private Facebook group, Juicebox Podcast, Type 1 Diabetes on Facebook, 40,000 members, over 110 new posts every day. There is a conversation happening right now in the private group for this podcast that you would be interested in. So head over right now to Facebook and join that group. It's absolutely free. I know you're going to like it. Juicebox Podcast, Type 1 Diabetes on Facebook. For those of you looking for the series, like Bold Beginnings or Defining Thyroid, they're all in the featured tab of that private Facebook group. But if you're not on Facebook, check them out at juiceboxpodcast.com. Go to the top, click on the menu. You'll see all the different series within the podcast.
I'm Brittany. I am 28 years old, and I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes when I was 12. So have had it for more than half my life now. Mm-hmm. And I am a special education teacher. I am 6 months pregnant. And so this pregnancy has opened up a whole new journey of my type 1 diabetes that I never really came to terms with. I guess I say now that I used to kind of live with my diabetes side by side, and now I feel like I'm living with it head on. But
interesting. We'll find out what that means. Yeah, let's find out what that means. Tell me one more time how old you are.
28.
28. Okay. I know everything I need to know to make a podcast that is interesting, entertaining, and informative, and much more popular than other podcasts. Here we go. Do you think that other people listen and think, but I do pre-work and I ask people a bunch of questions and I know what they're going to say and I have questions set up and nobody listens to my podcast?
No. I don't think, when I listen to it, I don't think you do. But I'm always really impressed at how natural you are asking people questions.
Oh, yeah, I'm not, like, now, we're into it. I am not prepared at all. It's a matter
I particularly Arden's episode really opened my eyes, and like when she was talking about how she had a wedgie and stuff, I'm like, am I cool enough to be on this podcast? She was just so effortlessly at ease.
Well, listen, Brittany, if I told you what I was doing 10 minutes ago, you'd be like, that's your prep for this? So, all right. Well, we'll let everybody wonder what that is. And we'll get going. So 12 years old, you were diagnosed. That is 16 years ago. I don't want to throw you off with how quickly I was able to subtract 2 from 8 and 1 from 2, but it's pretty impressive.
I'm impressed.
Yeah. 16 years ago makes it 2006?
2007. March 2007. Okay. March 13th.
Okay, so when you
think it was a Friday the 13th.
You think it was Friday the 13th?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. I like the way you're trying to name the episode in the first few moments.
Spooky vibes.
Also, everyone should appreciate that Brittany is recording this from her car outside of her place of employment.
Yes.
6 months pregnant.
Yes.
Yeah. Is there any chance you'll have to pee during this?
No, I ran to the every minute that you're teaching is so sacred, so I ran to the bathroom before I got to this call.
What are the children doing right now? Did you lock them in a big closet?
No, they're in specials, so either PE, art, or dance.
Mm-hmm. You locked them in a closet. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Just some of them.
Are they in your trunk?
God, no.
Okay. All right. Well, that's lovely. You were diagnosed right sort of at the beginning of CGM. So I'm interested how you left the hospital with technology or not.
Yeah, I didn't get a CGM until, I don't know, maybe 2010 or 11. I was in one of the studies because I live outside of Boston. So I was in one of the studies for Joslin diabetes, and they basically paid me to wear like the huge, I don't know which one it was. It was like a big black circle that was the most obnoxious loud alarms. And it was very inaccurate at first.
How much did they pay?
So I think I got like $1,000, and they paid for my parking. So my parents were really excited.
And parking? Why, thank you. And this thing's just going to beep an alarm forever and never be right? Oh, I can't wait. So exciting. Well, it was nice of you to be part of a trial.
It wasn't a part of my life or even on my radar when I left the hospital. I was totally like finger pricking and doing injections. I didn't even know CGM existed yet.
Okay. All right. Interesting. So injections, meter, how long did you go like that for? Were you doing syringes or a pen?
I did syringes for probably a year. I think I upgraded to the pen in 8th grade. I think I got a pump halfway through freshman year of high school.
Okay. All right. So, all right. That all makes sense. What was your first pump?
The Delta Cosmo. Best pump ever.
You had the Cosmo.
I had the Cosmo. I loved it so much.
As does everyone else who has ever spoken about it. What about it was so amazing?
I don't know. I think about that all the time because now I wear a T-Slim with Control IQ, and I think if I had the Cosmo as an option today, I would take it.
Really?
So I don't know if it was just, I don't know if it was an emotional connection.
It's got to be sentimental. It has to be sentimental. It couldn't be better than the Control IQ. Could it?
No, it's totally a sentimental thing. Okay. I just think it was like, I don't know. I also went to diabetes camp shortly after getting diagnosed, and that was like a huge foundational part of my type 1 diabetes life. And I just remember like, I never wanted a pump. I didn't want anything on me to do with diabetes. And then I showed up to camp and saw all these people with these Delta Cosmos on, and I was like, I want one of those.
Oh, I see.
So,
okay. So right now, so salesmen and women right now for pumps and CGMs are like, oh, okay, give them to the kids at the camp. That's what hooks them.
That's all you need for advertising.
Diabetes camp was your free taste?
Diabetes, it was what?
Oh, look at you. Not a drug person, Brittany. I said your free taste.
Oh, no. Diabetes camp was everything to me.
How come?
Well, getting diagnosed at that age in middle school was really difficult. I feel like I was like trying to figure out who I was, and then I get this disease in 7th grade, and the kids are mean. That's what I teach now. I teach middle school. Mm-hmm. And kids are just brutal at that age. And so, I went to a smaller school, so everyone knew I was in the hospital. When I came back from the hospital, it was like, the girl with diabetes is now here. And some of the there was a specific group of boys that really bullied me. Yeah. And I just struggled so much with that. And I tried, I think, to use humor as a coping mechanism a lot of the time. But inside it did really bother me. And I did have a period of trying to hide my diabetes. Like I would not go to the nurse or my injections. I would just like sit in class and, pretend like it wasn't time to go take my insulin and go to lunch and eat without insulin.
Wow. Because of the pressure from other people?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Like I would stand up in class and these kids would make like little snickering 7th grade comments.
Was this a 7th grade thing or a Boston thing or a mix? Not for nothing, but you people are mean.
Probably a mix.
Is it the cold?
Probably a mix. It probably was the cold. It was like, I don't know, month 7 of winter here in March.
I don't know. Yeah, right. Is it month 7 of winter? Is it how bad the Red Sox were for how long, or like what? Is it the wind that comes off the water? Because it's I've only been there a handful of times, and I make fun of Canada, but hellscape. Okay, it's just terrible cold.
Oh, yeah.
Wind. And if it rains, you're like, oh my god. It's like,
yeah.
Yeah. No, okay.
So it was seasonal bullying induced.
Be honest with me. Were they any nicer in the summertime?
I don't know, because I avoided them at all. I was at diabetes camp.
I swear I want to go back in a time machine and find out if those kids were just pleasant in the spring and summer and just nasty in the wintertime, because their little prepubescent balls were cold. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this is terrible. We're laughing through it, but so this pressure.
And that's what I did.
Yeah.
I think I started to use it as like, oh, haha, I do have, like, if you're going to laugh at me, I'm going to laugh too.
Mm-hmm.
So I did. I make a lot of jokes at my diabetes and, and then at diabetes camp, we made a lot of jokes too. So, but at least it was with people that understood where I was coming from.
That's acceptable. If you're all together in it, then that's fine.
Right.
So they joke and snicker and bully, and you go along with it to avoid the friction and probably figure, well, I'll make fun of diabetes as well. But then that leads you to not taking care of yourself as well.
Yes.
Do you ever tell your parents?
No, I don't think I did. I think I used it so much as humor that I convinced myself that it was funny, and I never would have went to them thinking or saying, I'm getting bullied. I don't think I even thought of it in my head as bullying.
Do you think they knew what was happening?
No. I think that's a whole other part of like my diagnosis age. It was like right at a time when people are, kids were becoming independent. You kind of like are on this learning curve of like, I don't know, all we could do in Boston was go to the mall by ourselves. But like, going to the mall by yourself or going to your first sleepover. And I really wanted to do those things. So I think I constantly had to prove to my parents that I can still do these things with my diabetes. It doesn't bother me. No one makes fun of me. I got this. So I would say my parents really only were actively involved in my care, like day to day, for the first like 6 months. And then I really like took it and ran.
Wow. Okay. How pregnant are you? 6 months?
6 months.
Oh, actually, yeah, because when you asked to be on the podcast, you're like, maybe I'll have a baby, hopefully. I was like, oh,
I know.
Okay. Yeah,
and I thought maybe I will, be trying or like be very recently pregnant. I got pregnant like 3 weeks before my wedding, which was a surprise. So
way to go, Brittany.
That's a whole other story. Yeah.
That's not how you're supposed to do it.
No, it's not.
Well, I guess as long as you
don't recommend.
I guess as long as the dress doesn't need to be fitted again, who cares? One way or the other.
Yeah.
Right.
I fooled a lot of people. So
yeah, you tricked your eggs. That's for sure. So
yeah.
Brittany, I'm going to share something with you. The reason I asked about how pregnant you were is because I don't know how emotional you'll be when I say to you that one of my biggest fears as a parent is that what I think is happening isn't actually happening. So you're managing your kids. I guess they call that parenting, or loving them or doing whatever it is you're doing based on the information you have. And when they live with you, and they're young, that's the easiest time because all of the influences and variables that impact them, you're aware of. And then the minute they leave the house the first time, you don't know what they're doing. And it's horrifying. Yeah. Really, really horrifying. Like right now, I don't know what Arden's doing. And if I stopped and thought about it too much, I'd spin in the circle, get in my car, drive to where she is, which I think I'm supposed to say is Chicago. And so if you heard her episode, I guess you'll get that. If not, I don't know. And so so I drive. That's what I would do right now, just to see that she was okay. And and
I often wonder like how my parents were able to give me that independence. And I think it's just the way that I carried myself, and also not having Dexcom.
Well,
not having the follow-up.
Yeah, because they didn't know what was happening. And so what I was going to say is the way you do that is you either cling to just blind ignorance and look away and go, it's fine, everything's fine. Or you are steeped in it so much that it makes you mental. And you
exactly.
know, hopefully you can find a middle.
I argue now that diabetes is like, you know, more accessible with all the technology, but mentally a lot more challenging, I think, for caregivers and people living with it.
It's interesting though, but what's the next sentence? However, right? May I? Can I fill? Brittany's like, I don't know what you're going to say, you freaking idiot. All right, just tell me. What is this? What are we in the middle of a game show? I gotta fill in the blanks. I take your point, right? Like there was a time previously where you didn't have the data and you could go, well, it must be okay. Except for some people, it works out okay. And for some people, they end up with serious health conditions.
Exactly.
So,
and I feel extremely grateful that I'm not one of them. And I'll look back on my life, and it's not like I was like super out of control or had these like, you know, 12, 13 A1Cs. I really never got there. I was always in like the 7s and 8s, which my husband does laugh now because he thinks I was just in the 7s because I was either 350 or 40. Well, and so I was just somewhere in the middle.
May I say, Brittany, that is how that happens.
Yes, yeah. I know. And your podcast taught me that. And I was listening one day and I was like, shoot, I've been called out.
I thought I did. Now, here's an interesting situation. Been called out. Did you know that you were coming to that number dishonestly, and you were ignoring it, or did you not know?
That's a good question. I think I might have known in the back of my head, but similar to like denying my bullying, I was like, well, you know, it says the average is 150, so I must be doing pretty good. Like I don't think I let numbers get in my head too much.
Okay. Do you know every time someone says that's a good question, in my head, my voice goes, I know.
But reflecting back on it, I think a lot about how, wow, I did all that and I had diabetes. Like I really was letting it live by my side. I was controlling it enough to survive, but not really thrive.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
No, it makes total sense. I mean, I'm not trying to change the world in this moment, but I am trying to put into people's heads that ignoring something doesn't mean it's not happening.
That's I think that, yeah.
You know, you have to, you're making a trade.
You
know, that's it. I'm not saying that it doesn't happen constantly in life or all sorts of things. You know, everybody who, at the end of the night walks through the kitchen and grabs a piece of candy after they brushed their teeth, you're making a trade. You know what I mean? You're going to be sugar on your teeth while you're sleeping. So you're probably going to get a cavity, and it's probably not going to happen for a year or two. And then you're going to get it and look at the dentist and go, I can't believe this. You know what I mean? And the dentist,
I think that's a great analogy.
Yeah. And then, you know, when the lady that cleans your teeth asks you if you're flossed and you lie to her and say yes.
Yes, every time.
Yeah. She knows you're lying.
Yeah, that was me at the endocrinologist too.
Yeah.
Like, where's your meter? I'm not sure.
Oh, meter. Huh. Goodness sakes alive. Did I need to bring that with me? I forgot. Yeah. So the lady cleaning your teeth knows you're lying. You know you're lying. Then the dentist comes in to see you. He knows you're lying. Or she. Ladies can be dentists too, Brittany. And And then, I just said that because my dentist is a man, right? Because Brittany, I would never go to a female dentist. No, I'm just kidding. I'm upset that I have to say I'm just kidding because I would like the joke to just lie there, but I don't need people misunderstanding.
I get it. You're in a public platform.
Right. So this is one of the things about life that I dislike the most. I've brought this up before. I hate being in a space with another person and they're lying and I know they're lying and they know they're lying because everything feels like a huge waste of time when that happens to me.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't want you to waste your time. I don't want the people listening to waste their time. Like either, I don't know, either dive headfirst into the pool without water or take the time to fill it up and splash around in it the way you're supposed to. I don't know. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so. Yeah, do or do not. I don't care.
Yeah.
I can't save all of you. You're going to listen or you're not going to. I don't know what to say. So, okay. So you're coming up through that time. Did you go to college?
I did.
Did you take care of your
Go ahead. I started at a college right in the middle of the city and absolutely hated it. And then ended up going to the state college that my parents had been asking me to go to for 5 years anyways. But I just had to go for that one semester just to prove myself. And then I was like, okay, I'll go to state college.
Yes, this sucks just like everybody said it was going to. I'm going to
yeah, it's exactly what I thought it would not be. But yeah, so then I went to a school that was 20 minutes away from home, which is why I didn't want to go to it in the first place. But I actually ended up having a great experience there. So
yeah,
no regrets.
The idea of moving away from home for college is just so that it feels like you're doing something, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like,
exactly.
So it feels like
I had to be, adventure. In the city.
Cosmopolitan, maybe. How did you take care of yourself in college?
I think I was, lying to myself. Like, I just did enough to get by. I don't think I should preface this with I did not pre-bolus until 2 years ago when I started listening to your podcast. So that I think was the majority of my lack of care, I guess. I would take insulin way after eating. So I'd be covering high and I would take a lot. I'd be a rage boluser. And I would come shooting back down and then I would treat my low with a lot more carbs I needed to and come back up. And sometimes I'd be somewhere in the middle. But looking back, I don't know if I would change that. I still was able to do a lot of amazing things in college without letting diabetes stop me. And I think that was just that was the care that I needed to be having in the time of my life.
I want to understand that better because it feels like you're arguing with yourself, but then at the end, I think you're making a point, but I want to make sure I understand all of it. Does that make sense, what I just said? Okay.
Yeah.
So because it felt like in the first 2/3 of what you said, it felt like what you said was, well, I didn't know to pre-bolus. I did know I was going to get super high and that I would need a whole bunch of insulin just to kill that high. But then I came tumbling down again and had to catch it with a bunch of food, which all sounds like a lot of work to me. But then you said, but I don't think I would change it, even though you know better now. So can you not put yourself in that position with what you know now and say, oh, that would have been better if I would have done it like that? Like, why do you think it would have been why do you think the trade-off was okay?
I think the trade-off was okay because I really think, I truly believe that it has led me to where I need to be now. Especially being pregnant and going through all this with my diabetes, this is the care that I'm, my A1C is in the low 5s right now, being pregnant. And it's been extremely challenging, but also really rewarding. And this is the care that I need right now. After I am not pregnant anymore, I will try to always have an A1C in the 6s. But I look at it as certain times in my life, that was the care that I was using to get by with what I did. And I'm okay with that.
Okay. What do you gain by not having a 5 A1C after the baby?
I think I gain, for me personally, a little more mental stability or flexibility
Mm-hmm.
and the ability to just, prioritize some other things. Like if I don't get every pre-bolus or I don't get every overnight in the 100 range, I'm going to be okay with that. I just think that, and that's how I kind of got through my life in college, was like I had some other priorities and sometimes my diabetes was on the back burner. And I don't know, it might sound crazy, but I was okay with that.
No, Brittany, I'm asking, and I appreciate you being so honest about it, because this is to me, one of the most fascinating conversations that I see adult type 1s have with each other. This idea
Mm-hmm.
of, I trade a little bit of this for a little bit of that. And I don't not understand it. I'm just trying to dig into it more so that I can get it. Because you look at, maybe it's just personality, right? Like I'll just use Jenny as an example since you listen to the podcast. Like Jenny eats a certain
Mm-hmm.
way. She manages her blood sugar a certain way. She gets, she's not ultra low carb or anything like that, and still has fairly tight tolerances that she maintains most of the time. And
Right.
she still has 2 kids and a house and a husband and a job, and she goes running and plays with her children and she seems happy. So I'm not certain. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't,
Yeah, no,
yeah.
I think it's interesting too. And I have friends with diabetes, and just a few months ago I was at an event with them. And I was managing diabetes, again, was at the forefront of my mind during this event. And I noticed and heard like a lot of their like alarms going off, or, their blood sugars were not nearly in the range that mine were. And it kind of took me by surprise because I hadn't been around them in a while, and I've been managing an A1C in the low fives. And I was like, wow, I would hate to be that number, or I would hate to hear that alarm right now at this event, but it didn't appear to be bothering them. And I've been in their shoes. So, in that moment, the event was the priority and their blood sugars were just doing what they were doing,
So
and they weren't completely ignoring it.
yeah. So is that
But
a lack of bandwidth? I don't
what do you mean by that?
I don't understand why you can't bolus at the event. Like, it
They
seems.
were bolusing, but they weren't. It was like an event where we were eating the whole time. It was a wedding.
Mhm.
So I was like, going into the wedding, okay, I'm going to take some insulin here. I'm going to do this. I'm going to be dancing later. Let me do this temp base. Like, I had all these things running through my mind, and I was actively doing it. And I kind of saw that they were more, taking their bolus. I saw them taking insulin, but at the same time, I heard a lot of alarms going off and this and that happening.
Yeah.
And it took me by surprise. But then I was like, if I wasn't like, if I wasn't pregnant, or these weren't my goals, I guess, at the time, would I be like, I don't know. It's made me reflect a lot on different, I guess, seasons or chapters or goals that I've had at the time, what they were, and how my control has been. And that might completely change after my pregnancy. I don't know. But I'm just saying, now that I've been a person that managed in the 7/8 of A1C and the habits that caused me to get there versus now, I think for my mental health, I will try to be somewhere in the 6s.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I think that's completely reasonable, by the way. I'm not judging the target. I'm just trying to understand the process. Those other people you were with, can I ask you, do they have children?
They don't.
Uh-huh. Were they
No,
single?
I'm one of the first in the group of my close friends with diabetes to have children, and I know that they've been asking me a lot of questions, and just kind of amazed at what I've been able to do, because I think we all have had similar management being diagnosed around,
Yeah.
the early 2000s. And
So
yeah,
the thing that they don't know is what? Maybe it's not a thing you
uh,
know. Maybe it's a feeling you have.
I guess it's just the deeper understanding of insulin, all
Oh,
the variables that can affect you.
so were you managing this way prior to being pregnant?
I had an appointment with my endocrinologist in November of 2021.
Mm-hmm.
And it was my first appointment with an adult endocrinologist. And they asked me, you know, do you plan on having a family in the next year? And I was getting married in June. And I said, yeah, I would like to. It's something I've started to think about. But, you know, even though I wasn't always managing the way that I am today, I still I never let diabetes stop me from doing what I would consider some pretty impressive things.
Mm-hmm.
But pregnancy was always one that I was really, really intimidated by. Like, I knew my A1C was not where it needed to be. And I wondered, how am I going to get it there? So at this appointment, she completely discouraged me. And she essentially just told me the A1C that I would need, ideally under 6.5 before conceiving, and then under 6 during the pregnancy. But gave me no, and by the way,
Here's how
you
you
have to
would
do
do that.
XYZ.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I had the lowest A1C at that appointment. I got my A1C now to 6.7. And that's entirely because of Control IQ.
Okay.
So Control IQ, which I had in April of 2020, really did change my life. And I think it opened the door for me seeing a different lens of management.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I left that appointment in tears. I was totally distraught.
Because she told you couldn't have a baby, is what it felt like.
Essentially.
Yeah.
Brittany, I just thought, this is the lowest. With Control IQ, I was a little more motivated, and I was kind of curious, I see it's giving me an automatic correction, or it's shutting off my basal here. Let me take a closer look at this. Why is it doing that? And so I felt like I had the best control. I felt like I, was just giving it my all. And I still had the 6.7. And that was something I previously would have been so proud of. But at this appointment, I was like, if this is my best and I need to get it even lower to have a baby, I'm never going to have a baby.
Right. Did that eventually become motivating to you, that interaction, or was it always an impediment?
I think for a month, I kind of wallowed in self-pity. Just, still kind of hovering at that 6.7. I started using Dexcom Clarity and really looking and just being I'm trying, but I just wasn't trying new strategies that helped me get to where I am today.
Okay.
So probably in after the new year, I said to myself, well, let me just try a small goal. Let me see if I can get it to 6.5. And that's when I stumbled into your podcast. And I don't want to get emotional, but I truly don't know if I would be pregnant today if I hadn't learned some of the skills that I've learned on here.
Brittany, is this the moment?
Where I start crying?
No, where you tell me you're going to name the baby Scott? Is it going to happen? Is this it? Because I don't have any fanfare music or anything to play. But if this is it, let's take a break and I'll get some trumpets or something. It's not. Is it a girl? It's a girl, isn't it, Brittany?
I actually don't know. I'm not finding out.
That's what I would say too if a guy made a freaking podcast was haranguing me about naming my baby after him. You know what I mean?
I can't break your heart after that.
No, it's okay. So the Control IQ is not as valuable as the podcast? Is that what you're saying? Because I would like that on a t-shirt.
No, I think that you need to still know how.
No, of course. Yeah.
Insulin works to use it. For example, I got my A1C now to 6.7 with Control IQ, which is fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll be happy to be using Control IQ after my pregnancy.
Oh, I think the beauty of that is that you started seeing it do stuff, and you're like, I wouldn't have given myself insulin just now. What the heck's going on? And you
exactly.
And you look at you've heard me say it, right? Watching Loop work, it leveled me up. I was already doing really good, and I knew what I was doing, and then I watched the algorithm work, and I was like, oh, I do that. Is that why I'm doing that? You know what I mean? It gave me context for some of the things I had figured out to do, but maybe 100% didn't know why I was doing it all the time.
It's incredible.
Yeah. I have a couple of questions, if you don't mind. Did you see how I stopped you from crying? People will think that I gave myself credit for something, but really what I did was I saved you from crying. You're welcome. Because you're in your car, by the way. You're in your freaking car. And I don't need people looking over going, hey, 911. Yeah, I don't know what's going on, right? But there's a pregnant lady in a car. She's bawling her eyes out and she's on the phone. I think you need to go help her. Although that would be great for the podcast if the cops came. Unless they tased you.
Would.
Unless they tased you. Right? That'd be terrible. Right. So, terrible, but I mean, if you were okay and the baby was okay.
Just a plot twist.
Yeah. Maybe it's just a good thing for social media when I'm like, hey, on this episode of the podcast, Brittany gets tased in her car. She's pregnant, by the way. Make sure you listen. So you said a couple of things. One of them I'm most focused on. You said the thing that everyone says that I don't understand. I didn't let diabetes stop me. Mm-hmm. What that sounds like to me, and I know there's more context to it because this is why I like people to understand it. It's like saying to me, I knew if I walked into the reactor, I was going to get radiation poisoning and quickly die. But I didn't let that stop me. I did it anyway. That's how it feels to me. Like when I think of it didn't stop me, I think of Jenny. I think of my A1C is in the fives and I went running. Mm-hmm. I didn't let diabetes stop me. That phrase makes total sense to me. I was running around with an 8 A1C, but I still went to Bonnaroo. I didn't let diabetes stop me. Sounds to me like I ignored diabetes to go to Bonnaroo. And so, but I'm not judging it. There's a kernel of a reason in there. There's got to be a reason why so many people say it the way they say it. And I'm going to keep asking this question until someone satisfies me with an answer. And you might be that person today, Brittany, so no pressure. But what does that mean to you that you had health outcomes that you knew, health outcomes that I think you knew weren't great, but you were ignoring so that you could go do a thing so you could say diabetes wasn't stopping you? What does that all mean? Tell me, please.
I think that means to me, and I think this also loops back to the question we were talking about earlier. I didn't know what I didn't know, 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. So to me, living with diabetes was a lot of roller coaster blood sugars, severe lows that would scare me sometimes, hours of stubborn highs, not having my pump supplies when I needed them. That's what it was to me.
And even though those things happened, you didn't give up.
Exactly.
Okay. That makes complete sense to me. I wish people would just rephrase the sentence. It makes it that I completely understand.
Yeah. And now that I know, and that's what I kind of meant earlier, I'm still proud of myself from those times.
Oh yeah, sure.
Where I had these terrible blood sugars or just inconsistencies with my management, and I just kept pushing through, and it really didn't stop me. I did 100-mile bike rides for JDRF. In college I traveled to an island off of Africa. I went to Portugal. I went to Belize on all these service trips, and my parents were just like, yeah, you got this. And I, would just bring what I needed to bring. And I got through each of these huge things without really thinking too much of it. I just let diabetes off to the side and I just kept on pushing through.
Well, thank you for explaining it to me that way, because that's beautiful and almost made me cry. That I understand. The intent of the phrase is lost on me sometimes. I didn't let it stop me. I think that's because I don't have diabetes, honestly. So I think if I had it, I would understand that better. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just the idea.
Oh yeah. There's definitely an understanding of when you actually have it.
Yeah. Cause I just interviewed somebody the other day who's had 5 different transplants, and they said diabetes never stopped me. And I was like, it sounds like it's stopping you. You know what I mean? It's so, but I take it. It's more of an intellectual exercise. The idea of it's not stopping me.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think because of the age I was diagnosed, how soon I took diabetes into my own independence.
Yeah.
and still what I was able to do throughout my life. And I think when I think back on those times, like, wow, I had diabetes then. Like, it just doesn't even seem like I did.
Yeah, no, I mean,
because
you were running drugs off an island in Africa.
yeah, exactly.
That is what you were doing, right?
No, I was doing service and teaching students.
Is that code for slavery? Were you transporting people? What is happening exactly? I don't know what you were doing. Oh, you were helping people.
Yes.
Well, oh, wait a minute. But you're from Boston. You're not a. Wait a second. I have to get this.
It's contradictory.
You're not a Mormon. Oh my God, are you Catholic?
I was raised Catholic.
Ah, a mission.
Of course,
you're
Irish Catholic.
Yeah, you. Oh yeah, okay. You wanted to make sure Jesus would let you in. Is he going to let you in? Did you? Did you get them? Did you get the nod?
Fingers crossed.
My mother-in-law, my wife said all growing up, my mother-in-law would do something that she clearly didn't want to do, but that was a good thing, and that she was like clearly like trying to like get points on the ledger, like I'm going to get into heaven for this one. Anyway, Catholicism is great at making people do things they don't want to do that are nice, which I think is terrific. So, did you want to do this thing? Why are you so nice? She's dead. We knew it was going to happen. Brittany, did they tase you? Brittany, tell them you've done nothing wrong. All right, obviously we've lost the connection. Hold on 1 second. Well, when she pops back on, I really want her to go, "It's Brittany, bitch," but I don't think she's going to. She's not coming back. Do you think her phone went dead? I'm going to text her. Did your water break? Did you have to pee? That's better. She's not answering. My best guess is that her phone died. Because she was just gone. And now she's not answering. This is super interesting. Maybe one of those kids got out of the trunk and accosted her. That could have happened. That's probably what happened, now that we're thinking about it. One of the children that she stuffed into her trunk so that she could be on a podcast, very irresponsible, escaped from the trunk, probably with that little hatch they give you in the back. Also, there's a latch that you can get out of. I don't know if you guys ever heard. There was a girl named Brittany that was on the podcast one time who was kidnapped in the back and put in the trunk of her own car. This is something. Hold on a second. I'm looking that up right now while we wait for Brittany, who I'm not going to lie, could be dead. I'm Googling Juicebox kidnapping. Episode 102. Brittany Diggs was abducted and escaped. Oh, I can't believe. Oh, here comes Brittany. Hold on. Hey.
Hi.
So did one of those kids get out of the trunk and jump you?
No, that was actually your fault because my phone overheated being on the dashboard.
Okay. Wait, how is that possible? Aren't you in Boston?
I don't know. I just lost you and then it said temperature. The phone is too hot. It needs to reboot.
Wait,
I feel terrible.
First of all, saying my fault seems... I mean, in this day and age, we don't blame people for things. Okay, Brittany? All right. Try to be a little more woke than that if you could. And, but what happened? What state are you in?
I'm in Massachusetts.
Isn't it 12 degrees there?
Well, it's the fall, so it starts off as 30 in the morning, and then it gets to like 80 for like 2 hours of the day, and then comes back down.
Brittany, sweetheart, do you need a new phone? Do you want to do one of those things where people send money? What are those called?
Yeah.
I can't think of what they're called, but I'm glad you're okay. At first,
I'm okay.
I was worried you were tased by the police. And then
No.
I realized
it was much less exciting than that.
Yeah, I realized you were Irish Catholic and in Boston, so you're probably safe. So,
yeah.
Well, I'm glad you're back. I don't know where we were because I did so much talking while you were gone, trying to imagine what happened to you. By the way, during my my imagination period, I realized that a woman named Brittany was on the podcast years ago. She had been kidnapped, put in the trunk of her own vehicle, and she used the light from the screen from her insulin pump to get out of the trunk.
Oh my, that's my worst nightmare.
And her name was Brittany.
Please don't tell me that.
Yeah, Brittany. That's right. People with diabetes get kidnapped and thrown. I'm just kidding. You're so pregnant.
It's literally my worst nightmare.
How is that your worst nightmare? It's not freezing to death? Because that would be mine if I lived there. No? Wait, you seriously have a concern about this?
I do. I don't know if it's like my past life or something, but I've like always been afraid of getting kidnapped. And then I watched that movie, like When a Stranger Calls, right at the peak of like my early babysitting years. And every time I babysat, I was just like paranoid, like looking out the window.
Maybe this is karma because you trafficked those people outside of Africa.
Exactly.
And, yeah, it could be that too. You know what you were doing.
What comes around goes around.
Exactly. It's exactly what comes around goes around. Oh my God. There's no way to know if people understand my sarcasm. You understand, Brittany, perhaps because you're from Boston, that my personality I have dialed down to like 30% so I can make this podcast.
Yeah, I get the vibe of that listening to you multiple days a week.
Yeah, I'm literally chaining myself down just to give enough humor so that a normal person can be amused. Because if I were to give the whole thing, I think 3 people would listen to this podcast. Be like, this horrible man seems to know how to bolus, but I can't make it through the joking about human trafficking. So anyway, all right. So by the way, which is on the rise and not a joke. Did you know that?
Mm-mm. I did.
Yeah.
My husband's actually a pilot, so.
Oh, so he traffics people too, like you. It's a family thing.
Yeah, it's a teamwork thing.
So you lure them in with the big Irish smile, and then he sells them to people or transports them?
Then he flies the plane.
Oh, what a family business, Brittany. And we call this teaching. I see what you're saying.
Yes.
Okay.
Special education, 6th grade.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a good cover for what you're doing.
Mm-hmm. You
wouldn't want to put it on your business card, I don't imagine.
No.
Yeah. So, all right. Anyway, it's horrifying that this happens in the world, and I don't mean to make light of it. It's just you said an island, and I was like, oh, people must go to islands to take people. That's where my stupid brain jumps.
I was going to say Cape Verde, which is where I went, but I don't know if people would know that.
Oh, that's a lovely place. Well, yeah, had you said that, I would have gone in a completely different direction. I would have been like, oh, you're just there lounging around, pretending to help people in the sun. I see what you're doing, Brittany. So let me go back to my train of thought here, which is I'm going back to the wedding you were at recently and how your other diabetes friends were maybe had alarms that were going off and things were happening that weren't happening to you. I just think it's responsibility. I think you got married, so now you don't want to let another person down. Then you had a baby, and now you realize that baby's going to be alive forever, and you're going to have to take care of it.
Yes.
So you take care of yourself so that you can take care of others.
Yeah. You're talking about me in particular?
Yeah, I am. Brittany's like,
yeah, well,
are we still talking
Sam
about
is my husband.
Scott? Or is this the real conversation again? No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Sam is my husband. I don't mind saying his name. Okay. And he was, we met in college. Mm-hmm. So there were many times where he saw me having terrible lows in the middle of the night after drinking or whatever we were doing. And I don't know, like he's seen me through all these different phases too with my diabetes. And I have felt his support at every different one, but I guess I do feel a responsibility now.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that as you get, I can't believe I'm saying this. I sound like somebody's dad. I am somebody's dad. But
You are.
as you get older, you start to get more perspective and you recognize, like my wife has COVID right now. It's it's French COVID because she went to Paris for work and then came home and had COVID. So I'm calling it French COVID, though I don't imagine there's much difference. And like she's pretty sick. And she's like, as soon as we realized she was sick, my son and I were like, get upstairs, get away from us, get away. She's like, but we're like, shut up, walk away from us, go, we'll bring you things. Then we brought her cleaning supplies so she could clean the bedroom. We're like, hey, while you're up here, why don't you put these clothes away and vacuum? Yeah. But when she needs something, like I just go right in there. Like she's like, don't come in. And I'm like, no, you need this. I'll come in. It's a weird thing that happens. If she and I were dating, I'd be like, why don't you call me when you feel better? I'm sorry, in college, drinking or whatever we were doing. That's a quote. What else were we doing in college?
I don't know, staying up till 4 a.m. eating crappy pizza. Just stupid.
And then getting low.
Yeah, I don't even want to. I mean, I guess I did have Dexcom. I don't know I had the first one in college still.
The oval, like egg-shaped one?
I don't want to know what my blood sugars were then.
Okay, so you weren't paying attention then. I got it. Because you were trying to hang out with this boy.
Yeah, I was paying attention enough. And I don't want to sound dark, but I was paying attention enough to survive, to wake up the next day.
And that was on purpose.
I guess so. I guess I prioritize like being with my friends and having this social life and having quote unquote fun over, because, I'm pregnant right now, but like, I think it takes a certain amount of effort, even if you are like an insulin mastermind, to get an A1C in the 5s. I think you have to be trying, and I definitely did not want to be trying at that time in my life.
Yeah. No, I'm glad you said that. That's kind of one of the things I was hoping you would get to. I think you're 100% right. Like there is a lot of effort that goes into keeping an A1C that low without being low all the time or high.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And mentally too. And like, I just was living my life. I was doing my thing. Like I didn't want to be having diabetes in my mind more than, okay, I just ate, I'll take insulin. Okay, I'm low, I'll eat something.
Okay. All right. Well, that's helpful. Also, you're scaring the hell out of countless tens of thousands of people right now whose children are going to go to college one day with diabetes. They're like, wait, what?
I know. And I feel terrible about that because I'm part of your Facebook group and I see the anxious parents.
No, you should not feel terrible for telling the truth. Don't feel terrible about that. Listen, Arden's been in college for a month, Brittany. And
I know.
There's been gaps of time where I'm like, hey, you should bolus. Hey, change your pump. The pump's shot. Change it now. It's fine. It's not. Change it. I'll do it later.
Yeah.
3 hours later. Arden, your blood sugar's been 200 for 3 hours. I know I'm about to change my pump. I'm really busy. And I'm like, okay. But it really only takes 3 minutes to change the pump. We could have done it 3 hours ago. And what I've realized is that this is one of these things that I'm not going to get accomplished with a crowbar. Like, right? Like I'm not going to beat her over the head and get her to do this. I have to I just have to be there at the right moments to be like, hey, this is what a bad pod site looks like. Change your pump. And then at the end of the day, say, I'm glad you changed it. See how quickly your blood sugar came back down. I think we could have found these 5 minutes 3 hours ago. Next time, and try to do that. I'm just trying to nudge her.
I'm glad that you said that, like, it's 3 minutes of your time. And I so relate to that. Like, in the big picture, it really is 3 minutes of your time. But mentally, I think living with diabetes, it takes up more space than that.
Yeah. Is it?
And I think that's what I always tried to find a balance of.
Is it because it takes you out of what you're doing and then makes you think, I have diabetes and I have to put this thing on now? And like, is that?
Probably. Yeah. I don't even know if I think
that.
I think it's so deep in my whatever, my core that I don't think I'm actively thinking that, but it must be that. It's like, oh, I have this thing where I need to change this to stay alive.
Mm-hmm. It's like my dogs. This morning, I wanted to get into the shower. And I woke up and I thought, I'm going to sneak into the shower and then I'll go take the dogs out and then I'll go interview Brittany. And I was in the bathroom. I guess in your own house, you call it a bathroom, but when you're somewhere else, it's a restroom. That doesn't make any sense, does it?
No.
Oh, I guess you can't bathe in a restroom. All right.
No.
I was in the bathroom.
No, hopefully not.
Well, I mean, I guess unless you're a truck driver or a lady of the evening or a man of the evening. Because sometimes you got to wash your junk off, I would imagine, in between, don't you think?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So anyway, I was in the bathroom and the dog barks. And the bark is like, I have to go outside. And I'm old. And if you don't come down here, I will pee on something. And I'm like, okay. So I redress myself, go downstairs, let the dogs out, look at them and go, all right, I'll be back when I get done talking to Brittany. And I go back upstairs and take a shower. I don't imagine that took more than 5 minutes, but I was irritated by the time I got back upstairs.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if that's not a similar situation where you're just like, it's only going to take me 5 minutes to do this, but I just don't want to. Not right now. It doesn't fit here, maybe.
Exactly. And then those 5 minutes are happening every if you change your site every 3 days, which I arguably don't, but that's all these minutes of your life are adding up.
Right.
But
now
even taking insulin.
But you're doing those things now while you're pregnant and you're still working. It's not it's not like you're sitting at home. So now is there a difference?
I think it has been an adjustment because I took the whole summer off. I actually babysit for a girl that has type 1 diabetes. She's 5 years old, and her family is the family that introduced me to your podcast.
Oh, hi to them.
Yes, they listen. They will be listening. And
do you think they're going to be upset, Brittany, to learn that Brittany, do you think they're going to be upset to learn that you're involved in human trafficking?
Very much so.
Probably going to lose your job. The babysitting gig. Yeah, for sure. Okay. I'm sorry. I cut you off because I was so delighted by my thought. You go ahead.
So most of the summer was either being off, like really focusing on my diabetes every day, like it was a full-time job, or babysitting her, which was, I'm also focusing on her diabetes. So coming back to work and doing what I have been doing now for my 7th year teaching. I don't know. It might be. And it is harder. I've had to adjust. It's not impossible and it's totally doable. And that will be my big message to anyone that wants to have a type 1 pregnancy or just get their A1C lower. But it is an adjustment, especially when you've been living your life in a certain way for so many years. And it hasn't really bothered you.
Right.
It's hard to make that transition from living side by side to really prioritizing it.
So there was a lot of value in you making time for yourself to figure out how you were going to do this.
Yes.
Okay.
100%.
Interesting. Very interesting, actually. Well, Brittany, I'm so sorry to tell you we're up on an hour and I'm worried that you have to go back to work.
Yeah, it's coming up on that time.
I'm so sorry. And we wasted all that time with your overheating phone.
I know. I'm sorry.
No, that's my fault, as you pointed out. And just real quickly, there's no way the baby's going to be named Scott, right?
I don't think so.
Yeah, it's okay. Because it's a name. Is that right?
No, I mean, I think naming a child is arguably one of the hardest things I'll ever do. I feel like people do it so, like, I don't know, effortlessly. But to my husband and I, it seems like the biggest deal ever.
All right. Well, I wish.
So there's no name picked out for either a boy or girl. So we might be naming them in the hospital as we exit.
Well, that'll be fun too. Don't worry. I wish you a ton of luck. Congratulations on the baby and your new family. And I really appreciate you sharing this story. I know we messed around a lot, but your core message is really strong and I appreciated you sharing it here.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
No, it's my pleasure. It really is. A huge thanks to Brittany for coming on the show and sharing her story. And of course, I want to thank you all for listening. I haven't said this in a while, but you support the show in a way that is just magical. Today was the first day of summer and the 5th most popular day in the history of the podcast. It is completely because of the way you all listen, subscribe, follow, and share. So thank you so much. I don't really have anything else to say tonight. I'll be back soon with another episode of the Juicebox Podcast. Thanks again for listening.